But first, we're going to start with the Identity Innovation Awards Ceremony. And we do have 3 nominees, which I will put on the screen. So these are being selected for the Identity Innovation Award. And all has been asked to give a pitch, 4 minutes maximum. If it's going to be less, sure, but I think everyone's going to use the maximum, probably, in order to give a pitch about your solution. Also, I'm not the one who's going to make the decision, lucky enough. But we do have an award committee, which are sitting here, and will introduce later on. But well, maybe we can do the introduction yourself. So, Arnold, can you just introduce yourself?
I hope so, yes. My name is Arnold Roosendaal. I'm a director at a privacy company, so specialist in privacy and identity, and also a member of the advisory board of IDnext, of course.
My name is Roland Struijsdijk-Dij. I'm a professor of internet security at the University of Twente in Enschede.
And I'm Roelof Meijer, the CEO of Asignio.
Great, thanks. So later on, when the pitch has been given, the award committee will be asked to sit here and also gonna ask some questions. So be prepared. We do have 2 presentations gonna be here on site. One is gonna be done via video and also via a link. So someone, hopefully the connection will work, will be available there also to answer some questions from our award committee members. So we're gonna start with the first presentation. And the first presentation, or the first pitch, I must say, will be done by Joe. Where's Joe? There you are. So, come to the stage.
I will.
So at first, when you're going to speak, your 4 minutes will start. So, be prepared.
Can I
also
see where the 4 minutes are?
Well, I'm at the 4 minutes, so.
Oh, you're going to keep an eye on it. I won't need the 4 minutes, actually. It's quite a simple solution. Welcome everybody, my name is Joe Bloemendaal, and we all want to get rid of passwords. I think listening to the themes today, that was boiling it down, one of the bigger problems we have, not only because we all hate using them every day. I think I hate the current passwords. There's only one thing I hate even more, is coming up with a new password and then having to figure out what am I going to use, an old one or store it somewhere, come up with something new. But also because they're a threat to society. 81% of all data breaches are rooted in a compromised password or a credential somewhere. So that's a big problem. But the reason I'm here today and the reason Asignio exists is that we are also worried now about the alternatives. Because my peers, you guys in the IDV space, talk about biometrics as the solution, and I'm skipping 2FA for a sec here, as the silver bullet. Biometrics, very often used in the sense of face biometrics, voice biometrics, the physical side. But I'm thinking, how are they different to a compromised password? Because that information's out there all the time as well. I'm being recorded now. I'm on Zoom calls all the time, team meetings. Even my holiday pictures are somewhere in cloud stored and protected with a password. So if my face is going to be my password, it has to be protected somehow. Ideally with something as strong as another biometric. And even better would be if it's something that has the characteristics of a password. And that's exactly what we've developed at Asignio. So I hope the video works. I'll show you what it looks like here first. So what you've seen there is MFA 2.0. It's something you're very familiar with, a sign or a signature or a symbol or a scribble. We don't know which name, we have to give it to it yet. But it's something that says, yes, it's me. Yes, I approve of this transaction or I want access to it. But it's not just a sign or a symbol or scribble on a screen. It's technology, which means that you can't draw the same ABC as I can. And if you would draw 1, 2, 3, and I would shoulder surf you on the train, I would not be able to do that because the algorithm recognizes all the difference between you take a bend, the speed, the pressure you put on the screen. The upside of this type of biometric, because bear in mind, that's how this will be classified and is classified, it's a biometric, is that it can be changed. So if it's compromised, I don't use ABC anymore, I use 1, 2, 3. The other thing you saw is my face. You're not familiar with my face, but it's a face. And it's a selfie, and that extra layer of security is available without asking the user to do anything. Asignio just captures it. We do all the traditional stuff like comparing it and have the liveness sitting behind it. So really this is a completely new way of authenticating a user, because you have a simultaneously captured dual biometric that if anything goes wrong is changeable. But there's more. It's also cloud-based. I know typical MFA solutions now have become device-based because that seems the safe way to go. But I don't get that because I have multiple devices I use all the time, iPad, iPhone, etc. What if I lose one? I want to buy a new one. That happens on average every 12 months. I need to re-onboard, KYC, do everything again. On each of these devices, I have multiple apps, and I need to establish a connection with them again. So having this cloud-based makes much more sense. I want this device agnostic, because that's the easier way for me to use. So wrapping up, don't know where the 4 minutes are. We think Asignio is the safer and simpler way to sign in for the future. Do I stay for questions or?
Facing the front. Wie wil de eerste vraag?
Well, great. Thanks for the presentation. And I think it was enlightening. Of course, we have looked at all the materials on the website before and the pitch you, or the requirements you addressed for the nomination. So I think this was helpful. And one of the questions we actually had was, why is it cloud-based? And you gave a perfect answer to it, because of convenience. Obviously, the other side, and I think you tipped upon it, like, okay, there's some criticism about cloud-based. Why is this? Is, of course, security aspect. Can you elaborate a little bit on the security measures you've taken for this cloud-based solution, so to say?
I'm not the technical side of the house, so I don't know every detail, but it's the information would be stored and not tied to anything PII-ish. So the security around that would be similar to any other cloud-based security solution.
Okay, so I assume there's an encrypted form of the face recognition image, the hand sign or the signature you draw, somewhere stored in a cloud database. Hosted by Asignio.
Yeah, I have a question about the liveness check. So in the submission you wrote about the liveness check, if I had to interpret this, the idea is that I'm holding my phone, the camera is pointed at me, and then I'm drawing this thing. Is that how this liveness? Is that how I should interpret this liveness check? The fact that I'm holding my phone, you sort of piggyback on the fact that it's already facing me. And that allows you to check that this is live. Is that the?
Good question. We've presented this solution to multiple people in regulated companies as well, and they always go, so what, is this 2 or 3 factors, or what is it really? And the first time I saw this, I was impressed by the symbol side, because I thought that would make a logical liveness check to the face. This was the companies out there, ID, R&D, iProof, and everybody like that. So there's 2 ways of liveness in this system now. Do we do actual liveness on the face? Because you know that you're using the device, but you're also drawing something on the device, and there's no way you can not move your eyes. Obviously, they move in a certain direction while you scribble. But the sign, the symbol, the scribble, we need to decide on the word, in itself is liveness, because there's no other way I can do that than alive on the device itself. It's almost so old-fashioned that it's become the most strong solution out there now.
Heb je nog een vraag?
Yeah. It's about this thing that you do on the screen. How critical is it to letting you in? Because I think we all have experience with trying to put a signature with something on the screen doesn't work so far very well. So I assume that it adds a bit of security, but if it is very critical, then it's probably more of an obstacle than something that really makes it work. So how do you find that balance?
Well, that is exactly the balance we need to find. There's an algorithm behind it. So the tolerances are quite wide at the beginning. When you onboard with this solution, you draw the symbol 5 times, and the tolerances will be quite wide, but alongside is sitting the face, so the fraudster would never be able to get in anyway with the 2. And then as over time you start using this more and more, you can tighten that down, and it becomes as strong as a biometric. We've tried all sorts of methods to show each other symbols, draw each other symbols. You just don't get through, because we ask the user to draw 3 layers, as you saw. It's not just a signature, my paragraaf, as we would say in Dutch, but there's 3 layers, and you touch the screen and come off the screen. You take bends and there's speed and pressure in there, and all of that is captured in the algorithm. So it is extremely strong. I would even argue that over time, the necessity for having the face beside it is questionable.
Okay. I think, can I ask a last question?
Last question.
Yeah, because in the material we got, you write, we don't use in faces biometrics, like face and voice, but if I read on, then I read that you use face and you use voice, because voice is kind of a backup in case you can't remember the scribble you used, right?
Yeah, so the intrusiveness more relates to newer technology that we're seeing from behavioral biometrics. And without having to go into detail on that, that has to obviously continuously follow my behavior to be effective. Whereas our behavioral part, because sometimes we're put in the bucket with the sign of, oh, they're behavioral, it doesn't have to do that. It takes your symbol as you access something and then done. It doesn't have to follow you continuously to find out who you are. Yes, we also have a physical biometric sitting alongside it, but that's to make it stronger. That's the dual biometric that we capture simultaneously. And being passwordless, truly passwordless, to us meant not ultimately falling back on a password again. And that's where voice comes into play. If you forget what symbol you've done, which could happen, you could present face and voice, and then we would present the symbol back to you, and you would then be, oh, I remember now, I do 1, 2, 3, and you can draw it, and then we would know, based off the algorithm, that it's you again.
1, 2, 3 is not a good idea, I think. But
Great.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the questions. Thank you, Joe, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Rich. Now we're going to the next one. Mag ook blijven zitten als je wil. Next one is going to be ReadID. So I'm not sure if someone's going to use the clicker.
Maybe they can start the small movie.
Yeah? Okay. Good luck.
Oh, my name is Wil Jansen, and together with my co-founder Maarten Wegdam, we are proud to present Innovalor and our product ReadID to you here today. Innovalor is a Dutch tech scale-up. With our software product ReadID, we create trusted identity verification. We verify identities leveraging 2 things that everybody has: a smartphone and a chipped identity document. How does this work? Most identity documents have a chip. This chip contains your digital identity, well protected and guaranteed by your government. Modern smartphones allow you to read and verify the contents of that chip using our software ReadID. And this is the strongest foundation possible for remote identity verification. Verification consists of 2 steps. The first one is scanning the machine-readable zone to get the key to get access to the chip. And the second step is reading and verifying the content of the chip. ReadID is the most secure, scalable, and converting solution for remote identity verification. We combine maximal security with optimal customer experience and easy implementation. We've set a new standard for remote identity verification, disrupting the infamous copies of passports. We started in 2013 as the first, and we launched ReadID in 2014 as the first company worldwide to do NFC-based identity verification. We were the first on iOS in 2019, and we are the world leader in the field of NFC-based identity verification. We've grown to 50 people from 9 different countries in our office in Enschede. Maarten.
Thank you. So we're all identity experts here, and as Joe very well pitched, yeah, so we've been focused really on this authentication bit, but we solved the other problem. So we're not into the cool biometrics, we're in the problem of bootstrapping that process in who I am as a consumer or as a user or as an employee, that step before. And we see more and more that that's the crucial bit. And that's the bit that's much less developed than authentication. And we use NFC for this. So we were the first to bridge that gap using this NFC-based identity documents. And allow me a little bit harsh here, but the common industry practice of taking a photograph of a document, sending that to a backend and letting AI and humans look at that, that's just not a fit for purpose technology. We think it's often used with a false sense of security, which puts people at unnecessary risks for their privacy and their security. Unfortunately, regulators are picking up on this. So we are having, like in the UK or in Switzerland, they really say, okay, you have to use NFC. You're not allowed to use that old technology anymore. So, but not going into the details of the technology, but more looking at our impact, it's very good to see in the audience here so many of our partners and customers. Because in the end, we're the technology provider. We don't have impact by ourselves. It's through our partners and customers that we have it here. So let me try not to forget anyone. So there's Rabobank here with DataKeeper as well. There's Signicat, there is ING, there is AMP, there's It's Me. Right? So these are all partners or customers that use us in their products, thereby making the world a little bit easier and a little bit more secure for everyone. So to make it a little bit more concrete, let's zoom in on one use case that we're very proud of. This is Brexit. Yeah, as part of the Brexit, all EU nationals in the UK had to prove that they were EU nationals to not be kicked out at the 1st of July. So these were 6 million people that lived there for a long time and had to apply for EU settlement status. So they did that very easily and very smoothly using ReadID. Imagine all these people having to line up at City Hall in London, right? That would have been even more chaos than it was now. Yeah, so independent of my political views on Brexit, right? So we helped those people, you know, to have a smooth process, and it's not something, right? You earn the right to live in the UK. That has to be done securely. So it was either NFC or go somewhere physically. Bottom line is that NFC is getting more and more traction in the market, and that we're very proud of having led or leading that transition of using NFC for remote identity verification, and doing this in an ecosystem-based approach with our partners. Thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you for the presentation. That was quite clear, I think. I have only one question. In your answer to why you think you might be the winner, you mentioned your open source NFC library. Can you elaborate a bit on that? It's a library of what?
So the origins of the ReadID product is in the GMR3D library, which was co-developed or partly by the University of Nijmegen, also the Netherlands. So we shopped around when we still were Nové for, hey, who wants to use this? No one wanted to use it. But we believed in this and we said, okay, let's make a business out of this. But making business purely out of open source didn't make much sense because there's lots of things around the open source that has to be done. So we're keeping that open source, we're supporting that, we're maintaining that. But making this to a remote identity verification solution that has high conversion, deals with diversity in phones, in different documents everywhere, etc. Doing this in a cloud base with certifications that we all made. You know, not open source, you cannot open source certification. But we still work with the academic community on the hard crypto through that open source. And that makes, you know, the most security vulnerable bit, it allows us to still work with academics, which would be very difficult in a closed source situation.
We really like, we need the market to understand NFC, and we need a wide adoption of NFC. And within that, almost level playing field of NFC-based solutions, we can excel with the things we're best at. So we believe in a larger market where everybody can use NFC and use the best way of doing remote identity verification. And we're not afraid of competition in that sense.
Okay, clear.
Yes, thanks. Well, we've seen the process of scanning the NFC chip in your passport, getting it on your phone. What I'm curious for is the next step, because you're using it for verification, of course, towards any third party. I assume they will have an app. What I didn't see in the video or couldn't find so far, what are the options there? Can you be selective in which attributes you are sharing, or will there be a verification from your side saying to another party like, this is indeed the person you're looking for? How does the next step work after scanning the NFC chip? Because that technology is quite clear, of course.
I can take it in two directions. I'll take both of them. The first one is very easy. That's typically you want to do holder verification. You want to check if that person holding the passport is the actual owner of that passport. So we work with, that's not our own IPR, so we didn't pitch it, but so we work with facial verification parties that do that, including the liveness aspect, because that's the typical next step. What we try not to do is say to our customers, this is a valid document or not, because it depends on the customer. So like in COVID, we did a lot of things in COVID where, for example, proof of life for elderly people having a pension somewhere, living somewhere, and they would have to prove that they were literally still alive. So pension funds tend to then say, hey, it's okay if that passport is expired for half a year or a year. If we would have this very strict binary thing where we say yes or no, we would not allow this. So we do have a responsible vendor, so we do tell them and try to understand how they use it and how they should interpret our outcome. But we give them the core answers on the different security mechanisms and make it possible for them to do their own assessment on this. And by the way, we do, if something doesn't pan out, we do help them a little bit, like, so this gets a little bit, so I don't want to put that on the camera, what we do exactly, but we do try to make it clear to them, here something went wrong, which probably could be technology-wise, or a country that hasn't issued such a certificate, and this is very suspicious, so, you know, depending on the customer, you know, put them on the suspected fraud list or arrest them. To help customers a little bit with, you know, certain behavior that's very, very suspicious, I would say. What we internally call shoot them. But we recommend to not shoot them, but, you know, take them to an identity expert which can do due diligence on it.
Dutch police is also one of our customers.
And to the best of my knowledge, they've never shot anyone because our software said that was a good idea.
Okay, great. So given the time, again, thank you for the pitch. So we're going to the last pitch, which is going to be started with a movie. And after that, we will see if the connection will work. We will have a connection with Ajit, who will be available for any questions. So would like to ask to start the video. So that was the short movie. Hi, Ajit, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So we have here 3 people sitting here who are going to ask you some questions. Who wants to start?
Hey all.
Yes, thank you. We've seen the video. I think it's clear what I'm curious for, because in the beginning it said it's for, let's say, employees or customers. So 2 types of persons, data subjects that could be the topic of this solution. If you understand correctly, it's sort of a form of real-time connection with HR databases to check whether someone is really part of the company to access certain business apps. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay, so it's really a way of securing that someone who is accessing the apps is really part of the business at the current moment. It's a real-time verification there. But it also said something like the authentication by means of relations within the business. Can you explain something about this type of connections that are made? Because we've seen the profile setup, of course, from the customer's perspective, but how is the connection to the business database on the background?
Okay. So whenever someone joins a company, you create record of that person in your HRMS or AD, and that triggers creation of signatures, and that is pushed to our cloud-based platform. Now, whenever there is a separation, also we get a trigger to revoke the signatures. So in real time, we maintain either push the signatures or we revoke the signatures. So that's how a company has a control to revoke an identity whenever they want. Is that clear?
I have a question about the authentication app. So in the video, it shows that you scan a QR code and that allows you to log in. Are there any, because that wasn't mentioned in the description that we received, are there any open standards that you implement in the background that allows you to integrate this with existing application platforms?
Yeah, so QR code scanning is one way to get the application and the socket ID that you want to access an application on, right? If your application is installed on the laptop itself, then we have other ways of communication, standard IPCs, where using a clipboard, we can copy the session ID and the application URL, and then pass it on to the application installed on your laptop, and then pass on authentication request to our PureID server with that user, with that application name and session ID, along with the association parameters. So QR code is one. Using IPC, if the both things are on the same machine, is another. We can use signals as well if we are trying to verify a drone, whether it is associated with, say, Amazon, right? So standards can vary, and it is standard agnostic. So you can use any standard just to convey the things between a subject and the authenticator.
Okay, great. So no questions anymore, Ajit. Thank you. Then the committee will make a decision later on, so probably within half an hour. So I hope you will be available in order to hear if you're going to be the winner of the Identity Innovation Award. But for now, thank you, and we'll see you later. Means also that this committee, these 3 people, ask me to, let's say, entertain you for 4 or 5 minutes, because they have to think about who's going to win. I'm going to take... So this is going to be the one, and I think you are going to announce the winner, is it?
Yes, yeah? But maybe I would like my fellow judges up on the stage as well, because this was a joint decision.
And please elaborate why you're going to...
Yes. Oh, you can be on either side of me. Yeah, that's good. We had a number of criteria for the award. And the award, of course, is an innovation award. So innovation is the thing that we really looked at a lot in the 3 pitches that we had. It was a close call because we sat together over lunch and we looked at all the different proposals that came in, and we said, yeah, there's something to be said for all of these, and there's something to be said for choosing the other one, right? So this was really hard. So we actually prepared questions in advance. So thank you, the people that are here, but also the remote person for answering the questions that we had. And in the end, innovation is the thing that made us really go for the winner. And the winner this year is Asignio. Congratulations. We do this in Corona times, I guess. The reason that we picked it is because we saw that there was really a lot of innovation going on here in combining the fact that you doodle something on a screen, but then you sort of piggyback on this idea that you're also looking at the camera, right? And you can do liveness because I'm holding that phone and I'm turning it. Maybe a hint for a next version, you might want to consider still putting it on the device because that device has motion sensors. And so you could do, do you have plans to do that? Yeah, you do. Good, smart guys. Okay. So, and even location could be a factor in that. But that was really what convinced us. The fact that this was an innovation where you combine two things that are in themselves obvious, but if you combine them, you get something new. And that's what innovation is about. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And also thank you for the others that were here for the pitches. It was a close call, but yeah, we decided to go for Asignio.
Thank you very much.
We're extremely happy and proud to have won the prize this year. It's a big recognition for the team and the hard work that's been done. It's a big step forward for our company and specifically our launch in Europe, so we're excited, we're happy.